Hello class. Today's lesson we're continuing on the topic of surface area and volume. In today's lesson we're going to take a little bit of a different direction and move away from prisms and look at cylinders today. So there's two main formulas that we're going to use for calculating both the surface area and the volume of any type of cylinder. First of all, we need to be able to identify all the key measurements of a cylinder. So we need to know what the radius measurement is, indicated by r, and then we need to know what the height measurement is, which is indicated by the variable h. And then, of course, we're going to use the constant value of pi, which we're going to approximate to 3.14. So here are two formulas that we're going to use. So the surface area formula, as you can tell, has quite a few operations in it. It's mostly multiplication, but the key thing in between them is that we do have an addition operation. So that is something very important to keep in mind, that there is a plus sign right there in between these two parts of the formula. And then, of course, we do have an exponent operation attached to the variable r over here on the right side of the formula. So this is our surface area formula. And then our volume formula, as you can see, is actually a lot shorter to use because there's only going to be three values that we're going to multiply together. Pi, radius raised to the second power, and then the height. We're going to work through some examples of some problems of finding surface area of the following cylinders. And we're going to round our answers to the nearest tenth. So let's take a look at number 1 and start with this problem first. So let's identify our radius and our height. So our radius is indicated by this segment here. So r is equal to 2.7. And then our height is the distance between the two bases. So h is equal to 3. So we're going to use this information now to plug in to our formula. So we have 2 times 3.14 times r, which is 2.7, times 3, then plus 2 times 3.14 times 2.7 to the second power. As you can tell, there's quite a few multiplication operations in this surface area formula. So if you have a calculator, that's probably going to be your best bet for making sure that you can do your calculations efficiently. I went ahead and saved us some time with the multiplication and worked this out in my calculator. So the left part of the formula, this step before the plus sign, gives us this product, 50.868. And then when we multiply these values together, and don't forget to square that number right there, we get 45.7812. So now our last step will be to add these two numbers together. So when you add these two numbers together, you get an approximation of 96.6492. But if you remember in the directions, we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth. So this value rounds to 96.6 square inches. So don't forget, this is a surface area measurement, so our answer would use a square unit of measurement. Try number 2 out on your own. You can pause the video right here and work out this problem on your own. And you can hit play whenever you're done to compare your work to see how you did. So first we identify our measurements. So the radius is 6 and the height is 9. Now, the next step will be to plug these measurements into our surface area formula. When we plug in all of our measurements, we get the following expression. And now our next step will be to multiply the terms on the left and the right of the plus sign. After we multiply our values together, we get these following decimal numbers. Now the next step will be to add these two values together. If you add the numbers together correctly, you get a final answer of 565.2 square feet. let's move on to our next set of examples. In these problems, we're going to find the volume of each of these cylinders and round our answer to the nearest tenth of a place value. So let's start with number 1. So the first thing we're going to do is identify the radius and the height. So the radius is indicated by this line segment up here. So r is equal to 1.4. And then our height is indicated by the distance that separates our circular bases. So h is equal to 6. So now we're going to plug in our measurements into the formula. So we get 3.14 times r squared, which is 1.4 squared, times 6. So now our last step will be to multiply these three values together. After you multiply your three values together, you get an approximation of 36.9264, which, if we round this to the nearest tenth of a place value, is 36.9 cubic inches. Don't forget, since this is a volume measurement, all answers would be expressed in the form of a cubic unit of measurement. Here's problem number 2. Try this problem out on your own and see if you can find the volume of this tuna can. You can pause the video here, work it out, and then hit play whenever you're done working out this question. So the first step is to identify our radius and our height. So r is equal to 4 and h is equal to 3.5. Our next step is to plug our measurements into the volume formula. So we end up with this statement, 3.14 times 4 to the second power times 3.5. So multiply all three of these values together. After you evaluate, you get an approximation of 175.84, which, if we round that to the nearest tenth of a place value, is 175.8 cubic centimeters. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.